So because of that, you're going to see really big peaks and valleys. So one of the best online resources I see for water levels is USGS, so United States I forget what that is, system. So what they do is they have actual gauges in the water all across the country. One of them is in Walnut Creek, one of them is in a tributary to Elk Creek, and it will gauge water level, oxygen level, turbidity, how fast it's going, so cubic feet per second. And for me, I have kind of a range of where I really like to fish. And if it's rising or if it's falling, a lot of times those are your best chances. However, my target zone, I like the Walnut Creek gauge because it's the biggest piece of water that has a gauge on it. Everybody's like, well, Elk is bigger. I was like, yeah, but it's in Brandy Run, which is a smaller tributary, and it doesn't really gauge the higher waters. So if you just Google search USGS Walnut Creek, and everybody who has a phone should put that on there if you're really going to steelhead fish this fall, and that'll give you what the temperature is, what the height of it is, how fast it's moving, and it's a good resource to figure out the water levels. For me, last year we canceled 100% of our steelhead guided trips because we saw no water whatsoever until the end, it was like November 29th that we got our first rainstorm. And then it was blown out for about 3 days. We had like 2 days of fishable water, and then they got 4 feet of snow in one snowstorm overnight. It was a state of emergency up there, so we canceled everything last year. But for me, if I'm like, okay, I've got a week, what day do I want to go? I want a rainstorm, I want that water to go up, and I want it to be going down into my target zone within the next 24 hours. My target zone is anywhere between 40 and 100 CFS. I'll fish it higher than that, but that's kind of my target zone of where I want it to be. Go ahead.
That's on Walnut Creek?
That's on Walnut. Ask me if I like to fish walnut. The answer is no. So the only reason I don't like to fish walnut is there's a parking lot that can fit 8 bajillion cars and about a quarter mile of fishable water until you hit the waterfall. Some fish get up above the falls, but not many. So if you want to fish with your closest 800 friends, then go to Walnut Creek. But for me, I like that as a resource because it helps give me the biggest body of water with a stream gauge in it. So that range for me is 40 to 100. However, if I wake up at 3 in the morning and ready to drive up there and it's sitting at 210 and dropping, I'm fishing that day because it might drop in that range. It might drop 50 to 100 CFS throughout the entire day and get down to that zone. The online resource that we lost this year is Uncle John's webcam. If you haven't seen the news, last spring, he had some issues and lost the business, and the webcams just in the last month or so shut down because of that. So if you want to know exactly what happened, you can do your own online research and figure it out. So I don't know anything for the people who are going to eventually ask, whether that's going to be open to fishing, whether somebody private is going to buy it, whether the state's going to buy it. There's rumor mills on everything right now. As of right now, you can access it. It's about a mile up from the lake, so it had 4 webcams that showed different spots. It was a great resource. It's now gone. There are a couple webcams. We'll talk about those resources at the end. So 40 to 100, I'll fish it higher. I will sometimes fish it lower. Here's my rule of thumb on water levels. Is that bigger bodies of water are going to take longer to rise because they can afford more water, and then they're going to take longer to drop too. Where smaller bodies of water, they're going to rise quickly, they're going to drop quickly too. So there's times where elk might be blown out and some of the mile streams on the east side are fishable because they've cleared that water out quicker, and where elk is taking a lot longer to drop. And vice versa. There's times where, the mile creeks are really low and elk is fishing well because it held a little bit more water. Also, water levels, early season, you're going to see really high peaks and valleys. Later in the season, you're going to see peaks and then you're going to see a slower descent. For me, the indicator for that are the leaves still on the trees, because those trees are drinking water. So if all of a sudden the leaves are off the trees, they're hibernating, they're not drinking as much water anymore, and more water is going into those creeks. Like I said, we've got that's, we need that rainwater. early season, you might have a day that it's really good depending on how much rain we got. That all being said, if you have questions on should I fish, just call the shop or stop in. I've been doing this long enough. Derek's been doing it long enough too that we can answer all those questions. I'm not a future predictor, but I can say like, oh, we're getting an inch of rain on Tuesday, Thursday's gonna fish. So plan your trip accordingly. So by all means, use this as a resource, and I've got 20 years of figuring this game out to know when to go up. And if, as I talked earlier, if you aren't too sure how to do this and you want help on lessening that learning curve, we're both licensed guides in the state. We plan on doing a lot of guided trips up for steelhead this fall. We've got a calendar in the back if you want to spend a day with us up there and us teach you everything that I'm kind of going through here. Derek will probably actually do more of the guiding than me because I've got to run the business, so I don't get to fish as much as he does. And I've got 5 kids and he only has 2, so he's got a little bit more freedom there.